Welcome, everybody, to this edition of Ask the OG. Getting a lot of comments and questions, and I really appreciate it. Keep them coming because I'll try and address them. The overwhelming questions are all about price. And let me give you my take on what's going on in the market for Bitcoin, for stocks, for ASK. These are the three big markets I want to talk about. Let's talk about Bitcoin first. Bitcoin's had an amazing run, certainly since the election. My take on prices for Bitcoin is if you look at its history, it really is highly correlated most of the time. Nothing is a perfect correlation, but it is correlated very strongly to the big cap tech stocks, to Microsoft, Amazon, Netflix, Google, Facebook, or Meta. It's very correlated to these assets. When money's flowing in to the big tech stocks, money's flowing into Bitcoin. That's what I see. And I see this correlation continuing. So if that's true, let's talk about tech stocks and what's going on with them. Well, and what determines their price? Well, by far the most important factor in tech stock prices, and it's the most important factor in understanding the economy overall, is interest rates. Interest rates are the signal of what is going on in the economy. Unbeknownst to most people, the Federal Reserve does not control interest rates. The Federal Reserve only controls the interest rate of what it charges its member banks. When the Fed started cutting rates in September of 2024, what's happened to interest rates? They've gone up. The Fed cuts, and the 10-year Treasury note, which is really the strongest signal of interest rates globally, has gone up. Total opposite directions. Why have interest rates gone up, even though they've come back a little in the last few weeks? What is the trend? That's what you have to ask yourself. What is the trend for interest rates? And then you can understand what is the trend for tech stocks and then correlate that to Bitcoin. Well, I am not optimistic about interest rates. The United States federal debt is over 36 trillion. Guess how much has to be refinanced this year alone? 9 trillion. And I think it's another 15 trillion in 2026. Who's buying this debt? Typically, it's been foreign central banks, Japan, Russia, China, Europe. Guess what? You think these guys want to buy U.S. debt? Under the Biden administration, we confiscated 600 billion of Russian treasuries. Do you think people trust the U.S. government when we just confiscate the debt? Well, certain people will still trust the U.S. government, but guess what? For foreign central banks to buy our debt, what do you think is going to happen to interest rates? We got to offer a good deal. And that just puts pressure on the upside to interest rates. So I am very bearish on interest rates, which means tech stocks are probably going to have a rough time this year, which means Bitcoin may have a rough time this year. Now, I know I'm a lone wolf here, but this is just my OG analysis, my simple analysis. Look at interest rates, look at tech stocks, look at the correlation to Bitcoin. You got to do your own research. You got to do your own analysis. But please, just don't listen to people going, rah, rah, sis, boom, bah, prices are going up, because the world doesn't work that way. Now, let's talk about ASK. The outlook for ASK is super positive. ASK is not correlated to any of these things. ASK is correlated purely to the demand that advertisers want to build a proprietary audience and reward individuals for opting in. ASK's price will move directly in proportion to how many advertisers we bring on board and how many advertisers we can encourage to compensate individuals with our digital asset, ASK. It's not a financial asset, it is a tokenized rewards point. It is not correlated to interest rates and things of that nature. It is correlated directly to the amount of advertisers we can bring on board. Now, in the last 18 months, it's been very difficult for ASK because the environment in the United States, where we primarily operate, has been very difficult given the Biden administration's attack on crypto. Big advertisers didn't want to take regulatory risk. Well, guess what? Those headwinds are now tailwinds. We're going to be bringing on lots of big advertisers, which creates the demand for ASK. So, even though ASK is a cryptocurrency and is impacted by the market at large, its only real determiner of price is advertisers coming on board on the platform. And I can't wait to start announcing big and more partnerships. And that's what's going to drive the price of ASK. And I think it's very independent from Bitcoin, although everything is correlated to some degree. There are independent correlations. And ASK, we're not saying is a risk asset, it's a rewards point driven by uptake by advertisers. So, for all of you who have asked about ASK prices, we're getting this platform in great shape. Advertisers are becoming more and more aware that they have to compensate individuals for their data because data is real property and they can't just exploit it anymore. So we're super excited to get our platform going, get advertisers going, and the future is super bright. Thank you, everybody.